Steve Young says that Trey Lance's delivery is a work in progress. This was interesting because he sort of defined delivery as like just the way your arm moves when you throw it, not necessarily where the ball goes, not necessarily accuracy, just the whole mechanics of the throwing motion.
Yeah.
And he said that Jimmy Garoppolo has an A+ delivery, which is like, what? Really? Because he has a quick release that makes it A+. I mean, it's efficient and economical, but he gets nothing on his throws. His footwork is terrible. He's not his ball placement isn't good. But he throws it quick. Okay, so he said that Trey Lance's delivery is a work in progress, and he says he has no question that Trey Lance can process what's on the field. There's a question with that with Jimmy. Decision making, processing, who knows? But once it's time to deliver the ball to the right place, it's a work in progress. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it kind of also made me think about how Lance and Shannon has been dumbing down his throwing motion. And that was kind of like a big take from last year, and even now, and it's like, what do you guys mean? It kind of looks like a little bit of a difference at least, unless like I need glasses all of a sudden. But I think the way he says that is because it's not quick enough, and he sees the way it's just like this guy's just like catapulting it. It looks like he's about to do a shot put. Maybe that's the way he's thinking because it was like a loopy release initially. And he did throw with him recently in that little meetup he had a couple months ago. So I think that's ultimately what he means, like that delivery, just like getting it out there quick enough. And because that's something that everyone just loves to hype up Jimmy Garoppolo about. It's like, look how quick he throws it across the middle. It's amazing. But I kind of felt like almost he was talking about like touch in a sense, because some of the deep throws, as much as he hit them, like Seattle, the Houston touchdown, but both touchdowns to Debo, it was hanging in there a little bit. So I kind of thought a bit more like touch also with his throwing motion. That was like kind of like hand in hand. Like the way his throwing motion is, the way he leads up to it with his technique, maybe he needs a little bit more on it because he hyped up his processing. Like the guy knows where to go with the ball and how to time it and stuff like that. But what about the way he's throwing it, that his mechanics that leads to the better touch? Because you can't be throwing it almost like a semi punt, where the receiver has to, hold up his stride a little bit. You want to, like, as deep as it is, just hit him so that way you can just take off. So that's kind of the way I thought he was taking off a little bit with his throwing motion, is because that pretty much is my only like thought about that that Trey really needs to improve himself on. So that's kind of how I thought Steve Young was kind of taking it.
I think it's a fair thing to say. I mean, what did Trey Lance work on all offseason? His delivery, his throwing motion, his
mechanics. The only time you do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I think it's actually, everyone has something they need to work on. I mean,
every year. Yeah.
Steve was talking about Mahomes. He's like, he's a terrible game manager. Like, he really needs to learn how to like do the boring parts of the game. With Trey, it's his delivery, and I describe it as funky. Jimmy's is pretty, I guess you could say. It's quick. It looks correct. It's pretty. Trey's is not. Trey's is funky. That being said, like, that's okay. I guess Steve's looking at it like, is he going to be me? Is he going to be Hall of Fame MVP? And from Steve's perspective, I don't know about that. Like, Steve I think he completed 70% of his passes in college. Like, he didn't have this issue. He had a pretty delivery. He was accurate, and he was athletic. So, yeah, maybe Trey Lance will never be Steve Young, but I remember a quarterback when I was a kid who had a funkier delivery. I mean, in fact, the ball came out different every single time. But he went to a ton of Pro Bowls, won a lot of games, was a very, very good quarterback, not a Hall of Famer. Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb had a powerful arm, and he was athletic, and he won a lot of games with that combination. There were a lot of seasons where he was under 60% completions, but he's a winning quarterback. He was much better than Jimmy Garoppolo ever was, Donovan McNabb. So, Donovan McNabb wasn't as good as Steve Young, but if the choice is young Donovan McNabb or middle-aged Jimmy G, come on. So, yeah, it doesn't mean that he'll be worth like $50 million a year, or he'll ultimately be what they thought they were getting. But if he's Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid made that work for a long time, 10 years. So,
yeah, I think you're right. I think it's, again, like, this is still circling back to, there's a rawness to Trey. And, like, literally, like we just said, like, his college really is kind of hard to really assess it and come to any conclusions with. And that's kind of like the mystery in the draw. And it's also the same reason why he gets all that hate, right? It's because what's there to see? We didn't get that final year. And it's literally all everyone can just circle back to. And it's like, look, the rawness is going to happen. Like, there's a little bit of patience here you got to have. And that's where you hope the talent around him is going to help mold that. That's where you hope Kyle Shanahan, who's paid the big bucks for a reason, is going to help mold this kid into becoming a great player. And like you said it right now, like Donovan McNabb didn't have that as polished, but look, he was still fine. And so even if this is a drawback for Lance, the point is, as long as he's doing all the other things, that's great. Just check the boxes. And if you have like throwing motion, sure, you can work that over time. I mean, like Kyle Shanahan said the other month, like every quarterback is working on something different, and throwing motion is one thing you're always trying to critique yourself on. And it's going to be something to work. It's not going to get, complete 180 in 1 year, but it's something that you're going to hopefully see that he improves on throughout the year. It's why he's raw in the first place. He's still molding.
And that was the thing with McNabb. I always kind of questioned his work habits. I mean, he always kind of had a belly, you know what I mean? He never really, his mechanics weren't great. I mean, Trey Lance had a belly. Like Trey Lance spent all offseason working on his mechanics. So he might be like Donovan McNabb now, but he might be able to transcend and be better than Donovan McNabb. I mean, McNabb wasn't particularly accurate. He didn't have that much. He didn't last that long. He was very good in his 20s. He was very good. If you don't remember Donovan McNabb, what you do, watch, you're watching the show, go, when we're done, watch his highlights, what he did. That's a lot of the kind of stuff that Trey Lance can do just making a guy miss in the pocket, rolling out to the left, rolling back out to the right, and then just throwing a gun, like an absolute seed down the field. It's the kind of stuff he was doing 20 years ago. Anyway, Steve Young has high standards. I respect it.